I think the journey of life on earth is incredible. Sometimes you get stretched, other times you get challenged, other times you get punched, and you grow and you learn and you become aware and you recognize maybe a need. You become compassionate, you become empathetic. I personally would like to wave a magic wand and have a world filled with really healthy, happy people living in harmony. And I've always felt the potential of that. So that's been where my journey has led me, asking questions. Can we live in a different way together on earth where every man, woman, and child has basic human rights taken care of? And how do we do that where we bring out the best in each other as well? I'm nearly 70 years old, so I've had many amazing experiences in my life, life-changing moments. But being young, when my brother was killed in a car accident when I was 14, he was 18. I realized then that both my mother and I were wired a little differently to many people because we felt his presence with us for quite some time after. And I began to realize that I could pick up a lot of people around me who'd crossed over time, but especially when I began to meditate. So when I was 16, I met an Indian guru who taught me meditation, ancient techniques from the Vedas. And the very first time I meditated alone, my whole third eye just exploded in light, and my whole body just, it was like this rhythm of just love, waves of waves of waves of waves of the purest love like I'd never known before. And I must admit, I kind of got addicted to that love. And to me, it was a love that I could only call divine. You know, I'd already had a beautiful, loving relationship with a young man, so I knew romantic love. I'd had wonderful love with parents and brothers and sisters, so I knew family love. And I'd had an animal, and I knew all about unconditional love. But this love was different. It was just divine. It took away all my hunger. In that time, I had no physical hunger, no emotional hunger, no mental hunger, no spiritual hunger. And I thought, I'm not a 16-year-old girl. I'm not. I am, but I'm not. I'm something much, much more. And my life became dedicated to experiencing more of that because I thought if that energy's in me and it can eliminate all my hunger, then maybe it's in everyone and it can eliminate all the hunger in the world and we'd live in a different version of Earth, a different planet. So that began a really interesting journey. And so a third thing, oh my God, there's been too many. Just, the third thing is meeting my tribe. Really, if I look back on my life and being an unusual child that you would label now as a divergent mind in neurodiversity, and because that label does apply to me, we didn't have it then, which you would call borderline Asperger's. But the borderline Asperger's are just we're wired differently. We're very sensitive and we're quite empathetic. We have just a different way of seeing the world. But then to travel with my work all around the world for 30 years now and meet all these like-minded, open-hearted, open-minded people who have the same dreams and visions I do, that's been huge, really huge. I see everything as best because I know that every challenge I've ever had when I look back in life, and like many, I've had some big, big challenges. At the time, I didn't know that I would become a better person for them. And at the time, I struggled, like many, thinking, why is this happening to me? Or whatever, not understanding. And then you look back, and I realize every single challenge has given me a gift. It's given me a gift of wisdom, even if the wisdom was to never do that again, never put myself in that situation again. Or it's given me something like patience, always some type of virtue. and not many, many things like this. And so to me, some of my greatest moments have been the most incredible adversity, because I've up leveled as a human being. I've become more aware, I've become a little wiser, I've become a bit more virtuous on some level. So now when I encounter adversity, I just go, okay, show me the gifts. What's the situation doing in my life? What have I got to learn? And what gift will I get? And sometimes the gift may just be a little bit more humility, or as I said, patience or tolerance or compassion or something like that. So my life's been filled with that. I could never at this age look back and identify just a few key moments, because I've had more experiences in this life that I'm so grateful for that I could ever have imagined. You know, I often say in our gatherings that my favorite technique is help, seriously, because there's often times in our lives that we have no idea what to do or how to handle it. But I also am a great believer in this infinite benevolence, this intelligence that I've experienced for over 50 years now in my meditation. There is this frequency of love and kindness and wisdom and benevolence and intelligence. It's everywhere. It washes through us. It's around us. And anyone can look back on your life and you can see that you've always received exactly what you needed when you needed it, not what you wanted, but what you needed. And so for me, I connect with this because Jesus also said, ask and you'll receive. So from 7, I started using that technique, asking, and then I'd receive, not always immediately, but eventually. So I just think when you get to a really open heart and you're like, I have no idea how to deal with this, I'm really asking for help. It's almost like prayer, you could say, or just opening to a higher communion and just asking for support to get us through a situation. And on the converse, to also, when life is great, to just say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So help and gratitude. Asking for help when times are tough and giving gratitude when everything works out and life's flowing beautifully, and just like, I feel really blessed. Thank you, thank you, thank you. More, please. It is, but some people don't like the word prayer. You know, I consider myself more of a higher light scientist, and people want to know the science of things, you know. So I tend to treat everything as coding, because I had 10 years in my career as a computer programmer, making rich people richer until I left that. And I know that here we have hardware and this is software. And our software, our mindsets are really, really important regarding what we bring out from the unified field of infinite potential. But it's not just there, it's got to be with heart too. We have to be really heart, mind engaged, or left, right brain hemispheres engaged for things to really lock in. That's what I've found. I could be very simple and just simply say, look, I encourage people to sit down, to shut up, to disengage from the duality matrix by going into silent stillness. The yogis would say, turn your senses from outside inside to see what presents, like to open to feel that we are being breathed. But to take it further, to sit down, shut up, and to, with an open heart, really ask to experience the truth of who we really are. And that's a good beginning intention. That the reason I'm meditating is to open up to a different rhythm of energy than that I would get by being so engaged in the external world. And there are hundreds of different breath techniques people can play with that allow us to fine tune into a very different, more consistent emotional experience, like peace. Like I know that there is a rhythm of peace that there is peace within peace within peace within peace within peace. In other words, more fine frequency of peace. There is a rhythm of love within love within love within love, and infinite wisdom in the silence, like our North American tribes would say, and all First Nations, that the wind speaks, the water speaks, the air speaks, the mountain speaks. Well, the cosmos speaks, the inner beingness speaks, but we are so busy being mesmerized by the external world that we don't listen. And everyone has this incredible voice within that is so loving and benevolent and wise and intuitive. So to me, part of the practice of meditation is to just say, I'm letting everything else go and I'm here. And show me, let me really, really experience who I really am. Let me experience the truth of what all the holy ones have ever spoken about, what all the wise ones shared. And let it be a real experience, not a mental paradigm, you know. So by giving ourselves time to disengage from the external world, then we can open up to infinite possibilities of energies that flow within and around us that are just the most nourishing energies that can take away every human hunger. And who wouldn't want that? But most people's minds go blah, 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 blah. And so one of the practices often taught in meditation is give your monkey mind a holiday and let it just come back to the breath. And this is the technique Buddha taught. And when people start, it might last for 2 seconds. And the mind just, and that's okay. You can have a pad in meditation and write down any good thoughts, because meditation also can give you really simple solutions to problems in life as well. So you can use meditation in many ways. You can use it to go into peace. You can use it to go into deeper levels of self-revelation of true nature. You can use it creatively to assess your life in a more detached way and be honest in your assessment of life and make changes. You can use it to, at the end of every day, just ask yourself how your day went and look at when you maybe didn't act as appropriately as you could have, and then do your fix it the next day, you know. You can do it to clear the way for dreaming, so you have prophetic visionary dreams rather than nonsense dreams. It's limitless, the benefits you can achieve through sitting down, shutting up, stepping back, disengaging from the mesmerizing world, and just being still with that other, more wise and loving, peaceful part of yourself. I was lucky because I was introduced to 4 techniques from the ancient Vedas, and the Vedantic path and even the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedas themselves are ancient, ancient wisdoms that have been applied right through India for a long, long time, and they just worked for me. But as my life progressed, my meditation also changed, and because I work with groups all around the world, I wanted to find a way of unifying a group quickly. Because if you get, a couple of hundred people in a group and they're all vibrating a little differently with their different spiritual tradition influences, if we can unify to one common frequency, then we meditate on that which we have in common. And what we have in common is this energy that breathes us. And so if you can work in meditation in a way that lets your pure nature, the essence that gives us all life, rise and dominate the system, we are freer quickly and we're harmonized and unified quickly. And so part of the coding we use with that is the focus on the love that we are, the I am pure love, and the fact that that energy is infinite and it's eternal. And when we chant these and focus the breath on drinking from the currents of the purest love within creation, flooding our bodies with that, claiming it, then with universal law, what we focus on rises and becomes stronger. And suddenly the groups, when we do that, they just harmonize into the fact that at our core we are all beings of pure love, we are all infinite, we are all eternal. And it also recodes the cellular molecular structure of the body to align to that which we're focused on, so you get stronger and more vital and healthier too. So that's just simple beginning meditations that we like. I think your inner being knows, you know. I think one of the things people are looking for is people who walk the talk. They don't just talk the talk. And so you might come into a network and people are talking the talk, but then behind the scenes you notice they're not walking the talk. And so it's a bit disappointing for people, and so they'll move on to the next or the next. Or maybe what's being delivered is great for a while, like reading a very necessary chapter in a book. You know, you've got to go from the beginning of a book to the end, and a book with a good story takes you through phases. And so for me, I stayed with the Vedantic teachings for over 20 years. But when you get to a point where you integrate everything, and you've absorbed it, then you've assimilated, and then you'll just feel like you're complete with that pattern of energy, and then something else that matches your new frequency will be presented, because like attracts like with universal law. So I think it's a natural progression. But then it's some people's blueprint to stay deep in one understanding for a whole life. You know, that's perfect for them. So I just feel, people know in their heart when it's like, yep, I've absorbed what I need. And maybe you go into a pattern of energy with a tradition that there'll be one sentence shared that you've gone, aha, and it's expanded your model of reality, and you've got it. So then to the next, because I tend to work with what I call the gatherers. The people who I spend time with in our networks, they are not bound this life by a particular spiritual tradition, but they might have been in another line of time. So for me, I just trust that all is perfect and people find their path in the right way in the right time for them. And we just need to listen to the call of our heart and follow that and use discernment. It's funny because I eat all the time. I just eat differently. So there are the words breatharianism in the world, which I don't like. It's not my word. It came in 1970 with Wiley Brooks. And when I met and spent time with him in the 1990s, I said, where did the word come from? And he said, it was what he was given in his meditation, and it means breather of God. But I call this pranic nourishment. But the word prana is an Indian word that the Chinese might call the formlessness, or the Christians might call God, the God particle. And I like the word nourishment in it, so I call it source feeding. But there's a lot of misinformation. I'm interested in a free energy that we all carry within, that when it gets strong enough and pure enough and powerful enough, it can not just eliminate physical hunger, but it takes away all our emotional hunger and mental hunger and spiritual or etheric hunger as well. So my journey has never been about the physical aspect, but everybody is focused on it because that's what happened to me. You know, I went from 20 years before, or a few years before, where I was eating very lightly because it felt good. Like I was raw food. I was most of the time vegan. I would eat a little bit each day naturally. And I'd been doing that since I was like 12 years old. I wasn't anorexic. I was just had a deal with my mum that I could feed myself in a way that felt right for me. And she could only interfere if I got sick, which I didn't. And I got great mental clarity, and I was better at sports, and I was stronger on a light diet. So by the time I moved into this at about 38, I'd already had a long history of using physical food as fuel. I only ever saw, I was not somebody who was big in the pleasure. I just saw it as fuel. And if I had this fuel, top class petrol for this motor car, then it performed different to junk food in the motor car, you know, cheap oil or cheap gas. So I was already playing, and I'd been playing with physical food for a long time as fuel. I'd already added yoga, and I realized that yoga opened up all the energy channels, and I felt much better again. And I'd been playing with meditation, and I'd come into a deep heart of gratitude with my brother dying, of realizing I had to just treat everyone in my life as if I'd never see them again and be really loving and kind. And all of that had put me in this frequency field that when, in 1993, when I was given this opportunity to do a little spiritual initiation, as many on the spiritual path go through, a byproduct was it took away my physical hunger. It was a shock for me. I wasn't looking for it. I was never like, I'm going to do this. It was a byproduct. And then I wrote my book about it that went into so many languages, and it just went crazy. And along the way, a lot of misinformation. So for me, while I'm known as the grandmother of Western breatharian, you know, our work really is about, can we work with a free energy resource we all can tap into to eliminate physical, emotional, mental, and even etheric spiritual hunger and get healthy permanently, so we don't get sick anymore and we can enjoy life and we live in harmony together. So we're really, really healthy physically, emotionally, mentally, and also through spiritually. And everyone must find their own path, especially regarding spiritual traditions. I was brought up with a family that says never talk about politics or religion. They're personal choices of people, and they are personal choices. But you know, along the way, people go, oh, have you heard about those people who don't eat? And it's like, actually, I eat 24/7. 24 hours a day, because this energy is washing through me. I am just become aware of the magnificence of this human design and what we are really capable of. And that's what our work is in our education paradigms with the Embassy of Peace. Just to educate people and say, look, we have this free energy resource, and how we spend our time determines its power and its potency. And if you really want to be free from every hunger and really walk in this world in harmony with the land, in harmony with each other, with a heart filled with gratitude, with great relationships, you know, all of that. If that's what interests you, then maybe our research might have something to share. Yeah, look, I love Mother Nature, Chi, and many people, myself included, especially over the last few years, we've all been called to go deep into Mother Nature and silence. Everyone I talk to say they're walking more in Mother Nature, sitting in silent stillness, walking the beaches, the mountains. And it's almost as if the power of the electromagnetic frequency of Mother Nature, as evidence in the work called being grounded or grounding, is so healing. Like an animal, when it's sick, a dog will often dig a hole in the ground and just stay still. It won't eat, it won't drink, it'll lie, and Mother Nature's fields will recalibrate it, and then it's healthy again. Cats do too, and then it gets up, fixed. That's their doctor. The Dr. Mother Nature Chi field, which I love and do. I love solar gazing. That's a solar chi, as Hiro Ratan Mane shared. I love to watch the sunrise every day if I can, the sunset when it's not raining in my country. And you take it through the eyes. But if there's no sun and you can't get into Mother Nature's chi fields because you're always in a busy city, you've got a problem. And then you have cosmic chi, of course, as well. But my initial training with the Vedas was to never be dependent on anything outside of yourself. And you have this limitless resource. Like, I'm interested in if an atom is 99.9% space, what is that vibrational construct of that space? So I spent 10 years meditating on that, just wanting to feel the flavors, because it's not one vibration, it's a multitude. And one of the vibrations in that 99% space that's flowing through, like wind in a tunnel, is just love. And it's a sort of love that's like, ah, oh, ah. It's beautiful. And in the love is wisdom, where you have this insights into understanding solutions for life or many, many things. And then you have this power that comes with the love and wisdom when it's unified. And then you have the fourth frequency that I'm really love, and that's benevolence. This energy is so loving and so benevolent, and it always delivers to all of us exactly what we need when we need it, and often before we even think we need it, which is wonderful. You know, like you think of somebody and you do need to connect with them, and they just ring you, or you meet them in the street, or you're thinking about studying something and you go into a bookshop and a book rolls off the top shelf and hits you on the head and falls on the floor right way up with the answer to your question. That's benevolence to me, what some people might call synchronicity. So there is a way we can live that with models of reality that align us to the truth of who we really are and how that pure nature wants us to be living. And as a reward, we're in alignment with that, is our lives are filled with grace and synchronicity and so much joy. And the only prayer in our heart is thank you. It's a nice way to live. Yeah. Well, I just intend that. I just assume that wherever I am, I'll be given what I need, not from ego. But, you know, even a parking spot in a busy city is a matter of dropping into an energy zone that matches. So if you're really in the now and really aligned, then you'll drive up to where you want to go, not the first car part, but exactly where you want to go. And you'll be pulling in just as someone's pulling out. And then it's like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then you're going into a city and you catch every green light. There's no red light, especially if you need to do that. Sometimes you need to get a red light because you're going to smile at the person in the car next door and maybe realize it's someone you know, and you know. So I run by a maxim that all is perfect. And then if I can't see that all is perfect, I then go, okay, if I hold the reality, all is perfect, and I can't see it right now, then show me why it's perfect. And when you look for the why every situation is perfect, you realize that it has something to give you, either a gift of wisdom, higher understanding, or a virtue eventually. We only suffer when we don't get the message. And then it comes back again and again and again until we go, ah. So synchronicity is a wonderful way to live life. You know, it's very free. Well, it's very hard to compare now because being the age that I am, you know, I've been married a long time. Our children are all grown. Our grandchildren are grown. So I have a very different rhythm now. For a long time I was writing. I was almost like a bit of a workaholic in super levels of creativity, because if you're not taking physical food, there's no shopping, there's no cooking, there's no dishes. There's a whole heap of time you're given. You're not digesting food. All that energy you use for digestion goes up into working with you on different levels, and you don't sleep much. So for a long time, I was sleeping maybe an hour a night for years and years and years. So I had 23 hours a day to play with. And so I would find different things to do that felt really good in my heart. So I wrote 45 books that are now in 25 languages, but all of that's done, or 22 languages, but that's done. So I have a much slower life because I've completed a lot of what I was required to do. So I might wake up 3 o'clock in the morning because I sleep a bit more now, which I like because of the changing energies on the planet. And then my cats wake up because cats are nocturnal anyway. So I might make a cup of tea if I want. And I play with the cats and I get bombarded by cat love, which is gorgeous. I just go moment by moment. I'll answer emails at some point in the day. I'll do WhatsApp talks with friends. I might be writing in the latest book I'm doing. I might be playing with the dog next door because I really love animals. I might go for long walks. I might be on the beach. I might visit with family and friends. And I have a set thing I like to do every day, which is the 8 points of our lifestyle program that allows people to really stay in an energy where more of our pure nature dominates rather than the human egoic personality. So that involves meditation. I might meditate 3 or 4 times a day if I feel like it. It calls me. I don't run from here, I run from there. So I might be up really early in the morning and meditating early, and I might do that a couple more times a day. And I'm in divine communion. So the first one in the lifestyle is meditation. The second is like prayer or divine communion. So I'm always talking to this benevolence. You know, I've been a telepath my whole life, but now I'm only interested in talking to beings of love and light and wisdom because they're nice guys. And one of the third part of the lifestyle is the mastery of the mind. So I make sure my mental food is mwah. I think we need to have the best mental food we can. And I think there's too much mental food and focus that creates fear, separation, fragmentation, judgment, all of that. So I do not engage in anything that perpetuates fear. And I make sure on social media we pass on information that uplifts and inspires. And it's not burying our head in the sand regarding what goes on in the world. It's just choosing to live in a different version of Earth. And then the fourth one in the lifestyle is to really lighten up the diet. I can't lighten mine up anymore. It's already pretty light. And the next one is to really treat the body as a temple. So it's like honoring the body and loving it and telling it every day how magnificent it is, because it is. It's an incredible mechanism. And every day I just have an open antenna for, instead of random acts of kindness, regular acts of kindness. And because my antenna's on that, I'm always meeting people in the community that just I can help in some way, but I don't want just to help them. I want to have mutually beneficial relationships. So my antenna is open to have even a minute exchange with someone that's uplifting for me and for them. You know, that's a beautiful part of this lifestyle. And then there's time in silence in nature, which I do because I live beachside. And the last one is sacred music. So at some point every day, I just feed my heart with music that makes my heart go, oh, I love this, I love this. And there's musicians and artists all over the world whose music has depth and really recalibrates the heart and puts us into gratitude and love. And so I live not in regularity, not in 6 o'clock, I've got to meditate, this is going to do that. I don't function like that, but many do. And so I have a really beautiful day doing the things that keep me very stable, because stability is important in a changing world where there's a lot of chaos. And so mental food is crucial now, because mental food triggers how we feel emotionally, and how we feel emotionally has huge impact on our immune system and how the physical body functions in this time. I want to be strong and fit and healthy. So I'm very, very conscious of how I feed myself, particularly mentally. It's really interesting because I've been a metaphysical researcher my whole life. I chose a family that had lots of spiritual books for all of the children to read whenever we wanted, from all types of walks of life. And I remember being very young, 7, and wondering if there was life in other star systems, wondering what the purpose of life was, really exploring the teachings of Christianity and more. And eventually, in my model of reality, I was just looking for some little catchphrase that felt good that I could accept and lock in as the purpose of life. And I finally found it reading something Osho had written. And Osho said, the purpose of life is the magnification of bliss. And I went, thank you, that'll do. Because when you lock in a piece of information into your model of reality that you're happy with, it's locked in. You don't go looking for another answer. Because you could take that wider esoterically and say that, as Jesus said, we are made in the image of divine, which you could say in computer technology, copy paste, that whatever you believe the original creative force is, we are made in that image. But we have extended from that, you could say, and become a bit individualized. And entering into Earth, we forgot. We were given the gift of amnesia, you could say. So we forgot the true nature of our being. We forgot universal law. We forgot we were made in the image of the divine. We got mesmerized by beauty of being in a body on Earth. And you forget, you get caught up in all the drama, because a lot of people love drama. It's very emotionally high, low. And then to think that when you remember, when you wake up, when you relax back, because we're already that pure and perfect beingness on another level, when you can relax back into that and you do wake up that to the fact you're a multidimensional being, it's blissful. It does. It's like, oh, another one. It's, if you could imagine this, I don't believe it's quite like this, but if you could imagine a co-creative beingness, neither masculine or feminine, that has all its children or its copies of itself spread throughout creation, and they're waking up going, oh, that's right, I'm an exact copy, and I am a co-creative being, and wow, life's incredible, and everything is holograms, and it's just movies, and I can create a movie that is beneficial for all of creation rather than a movie that fragments creation because it's all holograms. And that waking up is like blissful. It is. It's just blissful because I feel like I'm a cosmic reporter on Earth sometimes. And it's like, hey, Jazz, how's life on Earth? And it's like, well, when I forgot who I really was and forgot universal law, it was really, really tough. But now I know it's fabulous and it's bliss. So I like this, the magnification of bliss. I know it's been very confrontational. One of the reasons I've come to Europe this time, because we're now in Dublin, Ireland, was to say goodbye to a few of my friends who are getting ready to leave. And I think all of us want to know that the people we love in the world, whether we see them much or not, that they're there, that they're happy, that they're healthy. That's the compassionate heart. But many have been leaving in unexpected ways. And when my brother passed, it was really sad, you know, when we lost a daughter to cancer when she was 42. For us, it was sad. We won't get to hug them again, you know. You want them in your life. To lose an elderly parent, part of you feels like, well, they've had a good life, but still sad. And losing children, it's really a big thing to deal with. But for me, I realized I always cried for me because I would miss them. And then when you go on YouTube channels like Coming Home, or Heaven Awaits, and you get thousands of people talking about their near-death experiences, and you feel how peaceful they are, that they completely, from near death, they completely lose their fear of death, and they say, wow, it was just all unconditional love, and I didn't want to go back to my body, but I had to me. And when you then meditate, a regular meditator, you realize you are a vast multidimensional being, and there's just a very small aspect of this essence energy that is within the form, and it will enter form and extract itself from form when it's ready. And I have a reality that, you know, you cannot extract from form until you've received all the gifts Earth has to give you, and you've given all the gifts that you were born to give Earth, because it's a mutual gift-giving game. And so to me, I like to celebrate when somebody's left. It's like, oh, they couldn't leave unless their gifts were given. They've given their gifts, celebrate their life. But on another human level, it's still kind of sad, you know. But in my reality, I don't believe in death. And someone will say, well, Jasmuheen, I'll come and shoot you then. And say, well, if that's what you have to do, okay, I'm not opening to this. But at the same time, I just know, as do so many meditators and people who've had near-death experiences, that we definitely are not our bodies. We are far more. And my guru in India, he said to me in the beginning when I was 16, to all of us, he said, if a body was to drop dead in a hospital and you gave it oxygen, it wouldn't make it alive, because something has left the body. Sometimes you can, and it will come back because it's not its time to extract, but we call death extraction, and that your essence will extract itself as formlessness that flows through form when the time is right. And so that it's nice to be very detached on one level, not to have an attachment to a body, but to live fully in the now moment, knowing that when your gifts have been given and you've received what you need from this incarnation, that goes on, and there's so much more. It's not the end of anything, but that's just my reality and my experience. Some people feel like, and it's hard then, if you have a reality that all you are is solid matter, and you drop solid matter and you believe there's nothing, that I couldn't imagine living a life like that. And it's not been my experience. And that's the beauty of meditation and what Socrates said, man, know thyself, which you do through meditation, because you know a much different part of yourself and not just the human egoic nature. I think so. You know, I have a few friends, and they work as what they call death doulas. And that is, they're helping people transition. Some are working from the Buddhist reality, working with the Bardo, others work in different ways. I have many people working that I know that work in hospices, helping people transition, giving them a wonderful support system for the final stages, especially if they have different illnesses and diseases. When my daughter was transitioning with cancer, the staff were beautiful in palliative care. They were just so wonderful. But she was okay because she said, I've always known that I would exit early. She knew that. And so she chose to live a really, really full life, because from the time she was very little, she just felt she would have a short life. And many people have that feeling. Even when my mother passed, you know, she exhibited behavior that when we look back, we could see she knew she was going, not on a conscious level, but on another level, you know, and many people report that with family who are about to exit. Even people with disease, they suddenly seem they've turned a corner and they're strong again. You think, oh, they're good, but then the next day they leave, you know. But I think there does need to be a lot more education, more holistic education in mainstream education. And things like teaching meditation to children in schools, we're finding all that bullying goes. No more bullying, because the kids, their time out is not to write lines, but their time out to go sit and meditate and be still, and they're taught mindfulness, simple, and then just their vibration changes, the school becomes more harmonized. Even in jails, in meditation, they're taught meditation, the whole jail frequency changes. And the Maharishi did so much research in groups of meditators focusing on a city and being able to track how crime went down. And it's called the Maharishi effect now. People coming together and standing around a body of water, like Masaru Emoto's work, and then just holding hands and telling the water how much they love it, and transforming a polluted lake into a non-polluted lake. Humans have incredible power. This needs to be taught, yes. All this fabulous research, I would love to see taught in schools. One of the courses we offer is the Alchemy of Health and Healing. And in the beginning, we go right into people who have been given terminal disease prognosis, for example. And it's interesting because one of the tools we share early is to find out if it's their exit time. Because if you know that this disease is terminal, it is time to leave because you've completed your work here, then you're going to treat the period of life you have left very differently. And it's interesting, many people know this intuitively, but because family want them to do everything to stay, they'll prolong and they'll go into doing different things that if they didn't have family, they wouldn't do. And my sister-in-law was like this. She knew it was her time to go, but her children really wanted her to stay. So she had extra radiation, which collapsed her whole circulatory system, and she died from that. So she probably would have had a longer time had she not done that, because it was very difficult for her system. So, but this is something people don't want to know. They really, even though you give them the technique to find out that this is my time to go, many people won't test themselves, which you can test. Now, if it isn't your time to go and you get a clear no, then this is just a challenge. They're the people who can heal themselves. They can heal themselves through many different methodologies, starting with juice fasting, more alkaline water fasting to give the whole digestive system a break so that all that energy they'd normally spend in digestion can go into working with recalibrating the disease signature. We know from intermittent fasting that just 17 hours break of the digestive process, the body will scan itself, the consciousness, to get rid of rogue cells, cancerous cells, damaged cells, just gets rid of them, and then it will also produce new stem cells for healing and recalibration as well. So intermittent fasting is fabulous. So one of the first things we do holistically is a massive change in diet. But then you have the spontaneous healing, and all my research in spontaneous healing is there's a few factors that trigger this. Anita Morjani's book will talk about this. There are many who've researched this, and myself as well. And one of the first things is people who are given a terminal diagnosis, it changes them. And they often say, you know what, if I only have a short period of time to be here, I'm not going to do what others expect. I'm not going to make others happy. I'm going to make me happy. And they just do what makes their hearts sing. Then, second thing they say, I'm only going to do what makes me happy and joyous. And the third thing they do is they go into a massive appreciation of each moment they have. So they become now moment anchored, they focus only on joy, and they focus on being really aligned to what is for their highest good, the truth of their inner heart's call. And you get those three frequencies together, and they stimulate the rising of the pure essence, which is the part of us that can heal us and recalibrate us, the inner healer. And then suddenly, boom, they're in remission, they've spontaneously healed. Many stories about that too. So even this field of research is absolutely huge. But the question is this being complete? Have they delivered all their gifts? Have they received all their gifts for being on earth in this body at this time? That's a different game. No matter what you did, no matter what you threw at them, they wouldn't heal because it's their exit time, and this is how they're choosing to exit. Whereas others, it's just a challenge. And so when they heal themselves, they often then are in a position with great empathy to work with others. It's part of my generation anyway, of the female species, where we give, 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 take care of everyone else, and sometimes don't put our own needs as important. And when we just go, no, hang on a minute, I have to be compassionate to myself, I have to nurture myself as well, and to also follow the joy, what really we're passionate about, what brings us joy, because that's a signal that we're more in aligned with true nature as well. And then that not living in the past or living in the future, because when we live in the past, we're living often in regret land. You know, if only I had of whatever. And in the future, we often live in worry land. Like, what could happen? This could happen, that, you know, and it's a segregation, it's a separation. Both of them fragment us. You know, we're not operating at our highest potential because we're living in a reality that could be, or that has a different viewpoint to the truth of who we really are. Because right here, right now, all is perfect. In every now moment, there's so much power, and it's perfect. It's only when you switch on the news and you go, what's going on? But more and more people are choosing to just really ground here, be here now, be mindful, wonderful Buddhist practice, be very aware, and not live in the past and not live in the future. And then we're much more aligned to that part of ourselves that keeps us healthy and happy. You know, one of the things I've noticed with the chaos of global change and crops failing and the farming industry and just everything is that many people in my country are becoming more self-sustainable. They're growing their own vegetables, for example. Many are making gardens that are not just pretty, but feed them where they can. In Germany, this is a long-term practice where people have their own gardens separate to where they live in the city. And so many people are moving more to that. And there's, you know, it's fine to eat seasonal. Many people are going to juicers now to really cleanse their bodies. And we know that when you juice vegetables, all the insecticides are left in the pith and not the juice, which is a healthier way of doing that as well. So people are finding different ways of deal with it, but we are going through massive global change that affected everyone. Small businesses in my country that were so strong with the pandemic closing down. So it's not just farming that's been affected by weather, but everywhere is being affected now. So people learn to deal with it in a way that works for them. Well, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I see another decade of chaos, at least 6 years, if not more. I think in the 2030s, things will start to settle down because in my reality, I think we're being up-leveled. I think the people of Earth have asked for an upgrading of social systems, education, economic, health, media, everything, political, that everything is upgraded so that they operate for the highest good of everyone and not just the few, even, especially economically. And many people are saying no to things, you know, they're not interested in war, they're not interested in violence. And people are getting more into their hearts, they're getting clearer with what they want. And that's creating this recalibration of all the systems on earth because it's time, you know. We are a compassionate people generally on earth, and we know intuitively systems can operate better, and that's what's taking place. And you could say in esoteric thought, it's the end of an age, the end of Kali Yuga, a new age is dawning, a new chapter in human history. But the people have to want it. They just have to say clearer no's and more yeses from here, and that's what's happening. But I've been told from the connections I have that you won't know this earth by 2050. with a big smile on my face. Good times are coming. I think you're going to see a lot of fabulous change in the year, but you know, it's like you are going to make a smoothie and you have the mix master and you throw in all the ingredients, which is where we're at. And now we've hit the button and it's bzzz. You can't stand around watching the blender, but we're on high speed blend. You just push that button and it'll take as long as it takes. Eventually, blender goes off and you're going to get a delicious smoothie, a new way of being. That's my reality and of many. So we are focusing now on solutions, not problems. And I think that's where we need to go mentally. And people are getting together now and looking at solution-based realities rather than problem-based realities, because solution-based realities unify us and problem-based realities fragment us and keep us bound in fear and ignorance. So on the end of the day, chaos can lead to peace. People are vibrating out of that matrix. I think all of that belongs into the duality matrix, and I would like to reference the Matrix movies. And anyone who watches the Matrix movies, the message is quite the same. And it's like, but we're not plugged in here. We're plugged in here by what we're giving mental energy to. And I meet many, many people who just live in what they call a version of heaven on earth. They're not vibrating in the fear game. They don't give any energy to it, because to me, it's just a movie of reality. I realized very young when I started meditating that there is no reality. The one reality is when we disappear back into the pure essence that gave us life, which we do in meditation when we go into that space where mind cannot follow, that the Indians promote. You know, you meditate until you go to no mind, and you don't know where you've been because mind can't follow, and you're in that lost time syndrome where you come back, you feel fabulous, but you don't know where you've been. That reality is the common reality, and the rest is just holograms. The rest is just movies of reality. And you know, for me as a sensitive, as a child who was interested in so many different things, people would say, oh, Jasmuheen, you don't live on earth. You see the good in everyone. You've got rose-colored glasses. You're in denial. And it was like, no, I'm just living in a hologram of my own creation. And I like my world better. But I didn't know then about everything is holographic, but now I do. So if you can live in a hologram of fear and separation and them and us and darkness and power, patriarchal power systems of control and greed and all of that, that movie, you can. Or you can just revibrate through lifestyle, through consciousness, through heart, into a different movie of reality where when you walk out your front door, everyone you meet is amazing, where you do live a life of grace and joy and ease, because your frequency and how you've fine-tuned yourself is drawing something different out of the unified field of infinite potential, because everything is a reflection of our own consciousness and what we give our energy to. That's just universal law. So I can go deep into the matrix of duality and go, nuclear. Or I can just not even live in that version of Earth. And many are just going, no, I don't want to play that game. I'm not switching on the media, because we know that 95% of the global media focus on 5% of what's wrong in our world, when 95% of our world is brilliant, but they don't focus on that because positive news doesn't sell newspapers. They look for sensationalism. So just as you may have something challenging here, you may have over here a young man who's just developed a mechanism to eliminate the pollution in the ocean. Where's the news on that? So many people like myself, we choose to spread positive, uplifting, unifying news, and that's all we give our energy to. And so our version of Earth and how we live is very, very different. But we take control of our mental food, and we take control through lifestyle of our frequency. so that when we walk out the front door, we do have grace, we do meet amazing people, because the frequency screens everything else. And I also know that there will be no nuclear devastation. It will not happen ever, because we are working with forces now that will refuse to allow nuclear devastation coming off Earth to upset the delicate universal balance. It's not going to happen, ever. Are there other versions of Earth we can dwell in? And all the holy messengers said, yes, there are. Buddha talked about the Pure Land. Jesus talked about heaven on earth. So what if we say, show me those zones, show me those places? That's how I want to live. Show me the truth of all the holy messengers and what they've ever spoken about, not just read about it and think about it. I want to experience it. And then you're prepared to do what's required to tune yourself into those matrices, into those zones. I used to see it as like life can be like a New York basement level apartment where all you see in the windows is people walking by and the odd dog that comes and relieves itself on your window, and you go, bit chaotic and fragmented. But in the same building, there's penthouse views. Well, I'd rather have the penthouse views, because in the penthouse, you can see the whole city, not just a limited view. And that's what happens when you become more aligned with your all-knowing or loving, wise, intelligent, benevolent nature, which we all have. And when you emerge more with that, when your marriage is the marriage of higher and lower nature, and then you elevate, you end up having a very different view of reality, because now you have penthouse views. You got to vibrate up the stairs. You've got to find the lift, and the lift is your vibration. But first, your intention is to push the button. It's like, show me penthouse views. Give me a higher view of reality on earth. Show me what's available to me. And that was a metaphor we used in my book called Freedom Matrix, Being Source Fed, where we use source energies to elevate consciousness and become free. How we use our time determines our frequency, which determines what realm we live in, because it's all overlaid, like an apartment block. Go basement level of separation, fear, anxiety, them, us, judgment, good, bad, vibrating through until we feel that every single living human being is our own pure essence, nature vibrating in a different form, and all we can do is love. I think detachment is the key, and it is a gift given from daily meditation. I find, because I started meditating at 16, I meditated for 4 months, and then for whatever reason I stopped, and I didn't realize how much meditation had changed me. And what I noticed when I stopped is that I started to react more to people. And then when I went back to meditation, I thought, for me, the first gift it gave me was I was more detached. So I was acting rather than reacting. And you could say that's not taking things personally. Like every single person who is angry and all of that, they're just people who need love. Often they're people who are damaged or in lack at that time. So I do use that, especially in my work, in my history of dealing with the global media. I've often just been very detached. I don't take things personally, because I really am in this state of, forgive them, Father, they know not what they do, from the Christ. And I love that, because I also know that angry people are often wounded people, and that often wounded people wound. Not always, but that can be true. And I always just think that people who are like that, I just say, well, if they're that angry, they've had a hard day. And so instead of reacting, it can be simply, hey, are you okay? And people get like, what? They're like, ah, and you're like, hey, are you okay? Can I help you in any way? and you listen and you're empathetic and you're compassionate, but ego often reacts, and it's like, how dare you get angry with me and I've not done anything wrong and blah, blah, blah. So one of a wonderful rule or invitation is to not take things personally. Because people often don't know you, they know nothing about you, but they're having a hard time and they're just overreacting to situation or dumping. And do we have to take it personally? Most people do, because you haven't developed the art of being truly detached, not trying to be detached, but you just naturally are detached because the gift meditation gives you is a much bigger perspective of things. Bless. Information, wisdom. Wisdom, love,
Work.
good results, results.
Now.
Perfect.
Peace.
Endless. I like all of them. I'm a woman. Let's be real here. Some days I have to wear purple, some days I have to wear turquoise. I wear color according to what feels right every day, and I'm an artist, so I love color. Color has frequency, and it all infuses us with different energies. Frequency for the day. I get a feeling, I might try on 6 or 7 dresses or outfits before I go out because I realize the color doesn't feel right, or I might just wake up and feel like I have to wear turquoise today or green or something like that. I actually like water. I find water, my body responds the best to it. It's like, especially if I'm living in cities a lot and I like to drink. I'm not one of these people who never drinks. But there are times I don't, because when I tune with my body, it doesn't want anything, even water. But when I do have water, I notice it's the thing my body just goes, yum, good quality water. Yeah. So water for me is a really nice vibration, and it's a living intelligence like Masaru Emoto's work. And so I really like to just go, oh, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, because we're 70% water. And so as you imprint the water with I love you, that almost recalibrates all the fluid in your body, from your blood to your lymph to everything. So, and I like to go direct, no water in just everyday body. You're an amazing, magnificent temple, and I'm so grateful for all that you do. And I just love, 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 love and appreciate you. And it's like when you do that for a few minutes every day, it's like your body consciousness goes, ooh, do you? And it's like, yep, I love you. And then it kind of performs better. Because you can't be married to a husband or wife and never give them praise or appreciation or love, because they'd be upset after a while. And same with children, same with this body temple as well. And it just performs better with love, I find. Encourage people to understand the magnificence of this human design, that we are built to be a self-regenerating, self-sustaining, self-governing resource or being, and to know self-sovereignty, self-mastery. And we have flowing through us as part of us all the wisdom, all the love, all the power, all the benevolence, everything. We're just the most amazing design. The human system is the most incredible, magnificent design, and to spend time getting to know that experientially is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves. And I've been doing that since I was 7 years old, and I'm now nearly 70, and it just, the revelation goes on and on and on and on, like onion layers, you peel and you discover more, and you hit a frequency through how you spend time, you discover more and more and more and more. And it's the most exciting journey. And not to get caught up in fragmentation or giving our power away to anybody or believing all these limited ideas that are there to keep us fragmented and under in the game of fear and separation, because at our core we are one beingness. Oh gosh, success is interesting because you have a patriarchal matrix that may say success is about how much money you have or assets or getting the big house and the nice car and the pretty wife and the well-behaved, well-educated children, which is one model for some. But to me, success is our human relationships, the relationship we have with ourself, knowing who we really are and bringing ourselves, as Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world. And then when you really are aligned in the right way for you, you see it in your relationships, because your marriages are very different. Or marriage is very different. Your relationships with a lover, depending on where you're at in your life, with your children, with your family, are very different. And I think a successful life is the relationships we have with each other. When we can live in peace, when we can live in harmony, when my presence can bring out the best in someone and their presence can bring out the best in me, that's success. Fulfilling what we were born to do, providing the gifts that we've come to earth to give, receiving the gifts that we are here to receive by coming to earth, because it's always gift giving. Like, to me, everything is about giving gifts. And when you see it from that perspective, that it's about giving gifts, the blame game disappears, the victim game disappears, all of that, because even in a challenging situation, you go, show me the gift. What's the learning here? What is the virtue I will gain once I recognize the the gift of who's pushing my buttons and why? And sometimes the gift may be to never ever put yourself in that situation again. That's a good learning. Sometimes the gift may be to say, no, I'm not going to operate like that anymore. Sometimes the gift may be a real hard call for the upgrading of all our networks, to upgrade business networks, upgrade family networks, upgrade friendship networks, upgrade our, inner guidance networks or whatever. And that's a great gift, to just say, doesn't feel right anymore, this situation, and now I'm open to really experience the truth of who I am and to live in harmony with all sentient life in all realms, for example. So that's just an example of my coding. So a successful life is a harmonious coexistence with all sentient life in all realms, for me. I've received a lot of guidance, intuitive guidance over the years, with what I call different beings of light and love that may not be in form anymore. And I remember many years ago when the big changes started happening on the planet after 2012, because it is a time of a new beginning, and I was just guided by a very feminine energy to be very fluid, flow like water in these changing times. And the Buddhists talk about when you meditate and a thought comes, just let it flow away on a river like a leaf flowing. That's fluidity. Things come, let it go, don't take it personally. And then the next one is to be like wind. And you see wind on prairie grass in the North America or other grasses, and it flows through the grass, and you bend and you're up and you bend. And so it's fluidity, then flexibility. We have to be very flexible at these times because unexpected things will come. And then the last one I was told, and have fun. be fluid, be flexible, and have fun, because life doesn't have to be a struggle on earth. We've all struggled, we've all suffered. I've been punched just like everyone else, and so you step back and heal, recalibrate, and see the lesson, and then go, okay, it's a lot of change and a lot of things we're all learning to really allow us to be better versions of ourselves. But if we step out of the blame game and just say everything's a gift, everything is perfect, I don't see how it's perfect right now, but show me, because we have this unified field of infinite intelligence and benevolence. It's like, show me the perfection of this situation. I'm trying to run by a reality that all is perfect, because when I look back in my life, I do see that everything I've gone through, I've grown from. It's been challenging, but it's made me who I am today, and I'm grateful for that. So show me the perfection of this situation. And when we look to see why a situation is perfect, we do see it. It may take some time because we resist. And that, what is the saying? That which we resist persists. So we look for bigger picture, we see it, we get flexible, we become more fluid, and then we go, surely I can progress through this next chapter of my life with joy and ease and grace, and have some fun. I've realized, as many have, that when you really are aligned to doing what you were born to do, and this is something I believe we predetermine, we use free will in entry into Earth, and I feel like whatever we've been agreed, the gifts to give, my gift was to plant the seeds of the possibility of being a source-fed human being and being strong and vital without having the need to take physical food, and then educate why it's possible and how. We now have 500,000 people in the world in training with this, slow organic training. We have about 220,000 people who have lived this. They have this freedom. They may go back to taking food for flavor because it's fun, but they are freed themselves. So that was my gift too. So when we've delivered our gifts, then, we're at a different stage in our life. And to me, it's like, can't we do it all anyway with more joy, with more ease, with more grace, and with love and honor and respect? Like, if I hear of someone who are doing an unusual field of research, I go direct, I study, I listen, I find out what they're doing, what their story is. I don't say it's not possible. Like, when people used to find out about what we're doing, they'd go impossible and close the door. And for them it is, but for others it may not be, because this is part of their gift-giving process too. They're going to be part of this movement, and it's not for everyone. We all have different gifts, and they're all required at different times in human evolution. Right now, people are really focused on intermittent fasting, the benefits of that. And more people are turning more to veganism because they're more compassionate regarding their food sources now. So I think it's nice to just come into honoring the research of others and honoring our intelligence and using our discernment, doing our own research as well. Right. And so if we get on with one, finding out what we were born to do, remembering the gifts, and we often know because we feel very passionate. Like, I was born into a family where when I rejected the normal food because I wanted to feed myself lighter diet instinctually, my mother said, just be grateful for what I give you because there's starving children in the world. And that shocked me. I thought, what? Why aren't the adults taking care of the children? And I actually became quite passionate about that. And it led me to where I am now, looking for that solution. That was my passion. But I never thought that's what I'd do for a living. I never thought I'd be a writer. But when you listen to the call of your heart and the passion, and you're exploring something that's good for human evolution, you get taken care of. You get the resources you need. So maybe your job, your gift requires $500,000 to deliver. you'll get $500,000. Not a million. You might be going, but I want 2 million. I want millions. It's like the universe may or may not support you on that, but we always get the resources we need, whether it's financial or any level, to fulfill what we are born to do, the gift we are giving and the gifts we're receiving this life. So I'm a big one of trust because I've seen it in my life, whatever you are involved with. And I really recommend people align to doing something with their time that is beneficial for human evolution, because then I know you get grace. And I also know you get all the abundance you need. Now you might get the abundance of wisdom, of insight, of support team and money, because abundance is on all levels. We need an abundance of a vision. We need an abundance of wisdom. We need an abundance of patience sometimes, because you might be delivering something that the world's just not ready for. It's not your time yet. Right now, as I said, it's more focus on the benefit of intermittent fasting or being vegan on a health level for society. It's not our time as source feeders, but the plants are being the seeds are being planted. And people say, but Jasmuheen's been slammed and ridiculed and said to be a murderer and a fraud. Why is she still alive or in the field? And it's like, because this is beneficial for human evolution, it's not going to go away. So of course I'm still in the field educating. So that goes back to, if you can find your passion, what really feels right in your heart, and ask yourself, is this passion something that's beneficial for this human life wave in its next phase of evolution? Because you might say, oh, my passion would be to have a yacht filled with gorgeous women, drink a lot of alcohol and eat caviar. And you may or may not get money for that. I don't know. But what I do know is when your passion, what really makes your heart sing, is something that's beneficial for human evolution, abundance is never an issue. It comes. I think you have to put boundaries. There is, in my life, I've experienced a lot with people who are alcoholic, and it's had a big impact in many levels. But I think you need to get to a point and you just put your boundaries and ask yourself, am I enabling this person? Sometimes you enable them by tolerating the behavior, or I'll tell a story that's relevant. We do darkroom retreat a couple of times a year with all sorts of people, and we recalibrate them with lifestyle and introduce them to source feeding protocol. And I had a beautiful woman in my gathering last year, and she was from China, and she married a man from Ukraine. And within months, this man's family were all killed in the Ukrainian situation. And he felt really sad and really that he needed to help his country. So he left a very beautiful marriage with 2 children, with his wife's support, to go to fight in Ukraine. But he was older and it was tough, and he just realized he couldn't do it. He stayed for a while, but he felt so guilty, and eventually he realized he was not strong enough. He was not a warrior. So here was this man fighting for his country. He hadn't dealt with all the grief of loss of his whole family, and he came back to China, and his wife was so loving and trying to help, but she didn't have the resources, the knowledge. He needed professional care. And she kept inviting him to have counseling and to have therapy to deal with everything he'd gone through. But he just kept saying, no, 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 I'm fine. And the behavior got worse and worse until he was violent with her, with anger, violent with the children. And she had to say, no, you cannot have this effect, like alcoholism, to stand the ground. And so she helped him get a new apartment to live separately. And she basically said, if you will not help yourself, then I can't handle this violence, this fracturing of our family, but I'm here for you and I love you. And it's up to you to get help. And so there comes a point where how much can you do without enabling somebody in their journey? Because if an alcoholic won't help themselves or someone heavily drinking, what can you do? You can protect your own home and your own family too, but it's very hard to walk away because you think, if I love them enough, they'll be healed. But sometimes you have to realize you don't have the skill set. And sometimes it's the very act of leaving and saying, you're going to have to be here for a while and it's up to you. I'm still here. That's enough of a wake up for someone to go, I don't want to lose my wife and family, and I will then enter into a program to stop that type of behavior, because often alcoholism is very destructive, not just for the person, but for the family as well. But this is a huge initiation for everyone involved. And at what point do you say, no, I don't want my family, my children particularly, exposed to this anymore? And am I prepared to say, I'm not leaving you, but I'm leaving what we've created in the marriage, and I love you and I'm here for you, but you do need to attend to this for us to function properly again in a healthy way. It's a big initiation. See, here we are in Ireland, and I've had so many hugs, real big, meaningful hugs, not just but real, and I've laughed so much. That's the people. I've had the best time in our gathering because people were open-hearted, open-minded, loving, and funny. You know, the Irish humour matches Australian humour, I think. So for me, that's a really successful weekend, you know, a gathering. It was just lovely. We had the right combination of people and music and intelligence and heart. And so, yeah, it was just wonderful. It is about people. Well, see, Australia has 60,000 years of Aboriginal frequency of harmony with the land, and Ireland has a very deep energy of the Druids and the Celtic tradition and the magic of the land, and also what the people have gone through here. It's been very challenging, and they've learnt a lot, and then, yeah, there's a very beautiful, strong elemental aspect as well. I've never seen the leprechauns, but I'm sure the little folk have been keeping an eye on me sometimes.